Welcome to Sty Times. Hey, I guess I'll let you guys blame me for you being here. It's all my fault. It's all my fault. Yep, I couldn't stop you if I wanted, right? It's so good to see y'all. It's so good to see y'all on this Sty Times on a Monday evening. I'm going to shout out some folks, the early birds and the sort that were popping up in the chat. First person that had to make a comment, of course, was everything spicy. I'm not blaming other people, just you, he says. And I had to respond to him. I told him, I said, you know, it's your own fault, Bill. And then we had Rebecca Felter pop in, shared out this program. I love it. Thank you, Rebecca. And then we had Eileen. Hey, sweetie, that's great. I love Eileen. She's so sweet. Then there's Rain Dancer. Awesome. Was it me? I love it. I love it. Was it me? And there's Saucy Shane. Hey there, brother. Gosh, it's good to see you. Good to see you. And me, Dibble. Awesome. I'm back again. Good. Glad to see you. Glad to see you, me, Dibble. Well, excuse me. That's pretty much so. The folks said, oh, Killer Creations just popped in. Good to see you. Hey, great timing. But I'll tell you what, folks. This evening's topic, stop blaming other people. There's a lot of folks that don't like the topic because the spicy. There's the old farty says, hey, maybe 316. It's awesome to see you. Awesome to see you. I hope everybody's having a really good day today. I'm having a pretty doggone good day, even though it's been raining all day. There hasn't been a single minute that it hasn't been raining. It's not a heavy rain. It's just constant. And yeah, it's one of those rains where if you walk down the block and back, you'd be soaking wet. Yeah. The who are we gonna blame for that? Mother Nature, of course. So stop blaming other people. My gosh. No, I'm not gonna point out somebody, an individual, and say, they're the kind of person they blame this person, that person. I know that person, because that's blaming. I'm not going to do that. Hey, James, chasing the Reapers in the house. But the thing is, and the whole purpose in this topic is, it's too easy to blame someone for something. And I mean almost anything. You can blame them for anything. You can, the National Pretzel Day. Who's to blame for that? Hey, Mr. Fulton. But that's the thing is every day there's a national something day, Maybe I should look it up, maybe there's a national it's your fault day, blame day. Oh no. There probably should be, because that's one thing that gets thrown around a lot, an awful lot. I see it all the time. I guess I've lived too many years because I've seen too much of it. Passing the buck. Blame that one. Blame that one. Well, we got to blame somebody, so we'll blame that one. I really think we need to replace blame in most cases with responsibility. Well, it was his responsibility. It was her responsibility. That's not blaming anybody. That's stating a fact. If it was their responsibility, you should be able to say it was their responsibility. Don't say they're to blame. Just the word blame itself is derogatory. It has a negative connotation to it. And there's reasons why we are so quick to blame. I'm as guilty as anyone else. Heck, I think the first time I blamed somebody for something was when I was probably about 3 or 4 years old. It was sister's fault, even if it wasn't. But why would you do that? Why would you pass that blame off on somebody? Say, it's their fault. They're to blame. So often it was to deflect your responsibility in something. If you can blame somebody else, blame other people for it, it takes the attention off of you. You may not even be to blame. You might not have any responsibility in it, but it's a natural fear you're going to get blamed. So I'm going to be proactive and I'm going to pass that blame off to others. Takes the attention away from me. That way I won't be unjustly blamed for something. I'll just pass the blame. Well, we're no better than the person that was to blame for something. But we do it all the time. I don't think there's anybody out there that's not guilty of it. I really don't. Hey, Sean Biles, Sty, please send some rain to Southwest Wisconsin. It's drier than a popcorn fart here. Really? Really? Down around the La Crosse area, that area down there, or southwestern Wisconsin? Yeah. I got to get down in the southwestern Wisconsin. It's not very far south, but it's still southwestern Wisconsin. I got to get down there to Ellsworth Dairy down there and get some fresh cheese curds. I don't want the store packaged ones because you can walk right in the creamery and get them fresh. They're coming right off the line and you can get them fresh. And if you want them seasoned, they'll season them and they're fresh. You can get them right made that day. Oh, yeah. Southwestern Wisconsin. Great, great farm country down there. Gemma, it is so good to see you, Gemma. Oh, Eileen. Happy Monday, Sty. Well, thank you. That is so sweet of you. Well, thank you, thank you. Hey, bacon stuffed donut. It is great to see you. Great to see you. You know, I don't think any of us. Oh, wait a minute. Me Dibble is saying it was my brother's fault. He ducked and the toy car went through the window. True story. Yeah, if he hadn't ducked, that car would have never gone through that window. It's his fault. I'm blaming him. It's his fault. Well, now, wait a minute. Where's the responsibility lay in that? I think it lays in the person throwing the car. That's, and that's the thing. I don't think, like I said, I think we've all blamed and we've all been blamed. Blaming is just, it's like it's a integrated part of life. Yeah, I mean, it's something we have to deal with. We just don't have a choice. Hey, Mike's Outdoor and Adventures. Awesome. Good to see you, Mike. The and that's why I really wish we could. And I'm not one of those where, yeah, we need to make social adjustments. We got to adjust people's thinking. I just wish that we could replace most blame with responsibility instead. And I'm going to be getting into that pretty deep here in a little bit about the big difference between blame and responsibility. Um, Blaming somebody, in fact, is not putting the responsibility on them. You're just blaming them for something. True blame, yeah, that's if you got it coming, you're going to get blamed. I guarantee you. Oh, look there! Look here! Hey, Gemma! Oh my gosh! Oh, you are just too sweet, girl. You should not be doing that. Oh, that is so. Yeah, that warms my heart. You're just. Oh, it helps the channel so much. You're a sweet gal. God, she's a sweet gal. The but I I think back to all the things I had been blamed for in the past, through my childhood and through my adult years. How many things have I been blamed for that I didn't have any involvement? I didn't have any responsibility in whatever it was that they're blaming me for. Okay? So why would they blame me? Well, my father was a chief of police of a community. Well, I grew up in a cop household. My pop was the chief of police. He had become chief of police way before I was even born. So all I ever knew with my pop in the home was, yeah, I'm under the roof of top cop, right? Our community loved him, just loved this guy. All he ever thought about before himself was others, and the and the thing is I'll never forget him trying to explain to us, to the family, a lot of times about the things he learned as a chief of police, having to deal with so many different people. And I'll never forget when he was explaining to us how he could go to a accident scene or a crime scene or whatever, and there's several people there, and he wants to find out just what happened and what the truth is behind everything. He told us, he said, the first thing that he learned was the very first person that approaches him very enthusiastically, approaches them and says, they're to blame. It's their fault. They did it. I know it was them. It's their fault. And the person's insistent on putting the blame on somebody. And he said, I would ask them to please step aside and I'll come back to you because I'm going to want your statement. Then he would talk to the people that did not enthusiastically come up to him and start pointing fingers and blaming everybody. He talked to all of them. Then he'd go back to the blamer and he talked to the blamer. And he said, so often the blamer didn't have any of the facts. They're just certain that was the person to blame right there. That person's to blame I'm sure of it. Well, what makes you sure of it? Did you actually see what happened? Well, no, but I know that person, and I'm certain they're the ones to blame. But you have no facts. How do you know for a fact it was that person? Was if it required a level of responsibility, ask the blamer. Was that person responsible for something? Was it their responsibility and they failed? Well, I don't know, but it's their fault. Well, that's when, oh, Gemma, oh, you're a sweetheart. The She just upgraded her membership. Wow, wow. The if you're on the receiving end of a blamer, it can be very difficult because blamers don't typically blame with facts in their pocket. They don't, they're not holding an ace card. They don't have an absolute, undisputable fact to make you responsible. They just want to blame you. Now it makes you wonder, why are they in such a hurry and so insistent of diverting the blame to that person? What's their involvement? Now you got to ask them the questions, the blamer, because if they're in such a hurry to degrade somebody else by blaming them for something, are they just diverting the blame? So you gotta ask them just as many questions as the blamed person. Otherwise, somebody may be blamed unjustly. Hey, Joe, it's great to see ya. Joe still doesn't want me to go camping. Doesn't want me to go camping. The Yeah, you're gonna. I'll take the blame for that. I'll take the blame for that. Actually, the odds of me getting my Starlink equipment, being able to live stream from camp, is better than if I would have. Because this year it was either hosting a campground or taking a 30-day road trip out to Montana and back. That I would not have been able to live stream on that trip. I would not have been able to at all for a month. You wouldn't have seen me for a month at all. This way, you're going to see me every week. You're still going to see me. I'll be here on Wednesday nights every week until I get my equipment in camp. Then I'll be live streaming from camp. And you can blame me for not being here 5 nights a week. But hey, Aiden, it is great to see you and Crazy Ann, sweetheart. Oh, I love it. Yes, it's good to see you, Crazy Ann. The you know, I have always been one where my grandmother was a good one. If I tried to blame somebody else for something, it was plain and simple. Quit passing the buck. I'm talking to you. I don't want to hear about them and what they did and didn't do and blah, blah, blah. I'm talking to you. If you've got blame in this, that's what I'm concerned about. I don't care who else is to blame right now. I'll find out who else is to blame. You don't need to tell me. So, being raised that way, hey Raven, good to see you. The So being raised that way, I'm cautious to throw blame at somebody unless I got the facts straight. And then I don't like I said, I don't like to use the word blame. I'd rather say, well, it was their responsibility. It was their responsibility for that. And they screwed it up. Well, is blaming somebody, but you're not using the word. You don't go, well, I blame them. Because blame, like I said, look it up in the dictionary. It's a derogatory statement. There's nothing nice about blaming. No, nothing nice about it. Majority of the time, a person that blames someone else is doing it to either elevate themselves above others or to deflect any responsibility in the issue and put it all on someone else. So it's easy to blame others. It takes a little effort to stop and think about it and say, do I have any responsibility in this? Did I, what was my involvement? What was my role in this? Maybe I'm partially to blame. I think blaming ourselves for certain things is good. It keeps us in check. It helps tell us, well, that was a good thing to do or that was a bad thing to do. But we should never blame ourselves for things to the point that we become depressed or feel anxiety because it's always our fault. I know it. It's always my fault. All I can do is blame myself. Don't always blame yourself. And don't always use blame when a person makes when they make a simple mistake in life. I mean, you can say, oh, yeah, they were responsible for that. It's a shame because that's not like them. That's not typical of them. But if you go, hey, don't blame me, blame them, that's just passing the buck and belittling them, knocking them down, saying, when you say the blame is on them, you've just belittled that person. You said they intentionally are bad. That's why they're being blamed. That's what you're actually saying. That's the way it appears. And I don't, I, Me Dibble says a side effect of anxiety is blaming yourself. I know that all too well. Yes, it is. And that's it is people that suffer anxiety, it's tough. It's tough, man. It is terrible tough. The the way they deflect blame is to put it all on themselves. Things are the way they are and life is so bad and terrible and I can't, it's so hard to deal with, but it's all my own fault. They blame themselves. And it's a battle. It's terrible. It's terrible. I've had so many people that suffer extreme anxiety in my life that and I've watched them suffer with that issue of taking on too much responsibility and blaming themselves for things that were totally out of their control. Totally out of their control. And I think that's something that's healthy for everybody is to keep in mind things happen in this world all around us every single day that you don't have to put the blame on anybody. You know? we love to find somebody responsible for everything, you know. There was a hurricane and 4 people drowned. Well, I think it was the mayor to blame for that. Why did he drive past the roof of their house in a boat and say, F you, you can drown. Stay on the house, you'll drown in an hour. Or was the mayor in his office with water up to his knees going, we've got to do whatever we can to protect our city, but it's the mayor's fault. He should have had somebody out there to save those people. Got to blame somebody. Maybe you should blame the people that drowned. Right? Why did they stay so long? Why didn't they get the hell out of there? Maybe we should blame them. Maybe we should just blame the hurricane. Blame the weatherman. He should have said, this one's bad enough. You get on the roof of your house, you're going to drown. Maybe we should blame him. Stop blaming other people for everything in the world that happens. Yeah, Gemma, she knows all too well, you know, that it's a struggle to fight off blaming yourself for things. Yeah, it is. That is a struggle. But blaming others all the time, terrible. It's terrible. We always have to find blame in things that don't go quite the way we thought they should. We got to blame somebody. We got to figure it out. We got to blame somebody. We can't blame Mother Nature. We can't blame natural tragedies, earthquakes, tornadoes, volcanoes. We can't blame those because they could care less. You think that hurricane gives a shit whether you're blaming it or not as it goes through and tears up your community? Same with a tornado. You think that tornado cares if you're going to blame it or not for wiping your house off the street, but everybody else's house got left standing? That tornado don't care if you blame it or not. So what do? We turn that blame on others, on other people. We say, well, why wasn't the cops and the ambulance there to save that person? It's their fault. They're to blame that person didn't make it. No, they didn't bring that damn hurricane. They tried to save the person, but they didn't bring the hurricane. The blame belongs on the hurricane, on something you could not control. That's where that blame belongs, not on other people. The thing is blame is learned right from the get-go. I mean, that's like learning to walk. We learn to blame the minute we learn to walk. We're going to talk about that a bit now after the halfway mark here. I want to real quick, I want to show off my channel members. This only takes about a minute and 20 seconds, so don't go anywhere, folks. Hang tight. Don't hang tight, because if you leave and you miss the second half of the show, there's no one to blame. No one to blame. You know who to blame. It ain't me. I'll see you in a minute and 20 seconds, guys. Check these channels out. They're awesome people. Told you. Those folks are great. They're awesome. They are awesome. They really, really have invested in my channel, and I just adore every one of them. Yeah. And I say invested because that's exactly what they do. The any revenue my channel generates goes back to content, and this summer there's a lot of content that's going to be coming from the investments that all of my audience have made throughout the last year. That's all going right back into the channel. I've got items to review and lots of things out at camp. I've added new equipment to my camp, and all thanks to viewers. And the thing is, and I've had people say, "Oh, well, you just used your viewers' money to glamp, so you got all the bells and whistles when you're camping." Okay, that's partially true. That's partially true. The point is that if I didn't have the channel, I'd have the adventure trailer with my Murphy bed in it, and a Coleman stove, and a couple of sleeping bags and a cooler. And I'd be out boondocking. I wouldn't be in a campground all the time. I'd be out beating around boondocking. And in fact, I probably wouldn't have a kayak. I wanted to buy one, but I'm on a fixed income. I'm retired. So I'm careful about what I invest my money in. And it was people on my channel that said, "You need a canoe or a kayak, man. You got to get out on the lake." And I said, "Well, I don't know. I don't know." And they said, "But you could do content. You could do videos out there and blah, blah, blah." Next thing I know, they all contributed, and they said, "There, now you got enough to buy a kayak." So, and I didn't spend a lot of money on that kayak. It's a cheapie. It's a cheapie. But it added content to the channel. And that's where I like to be blamed. I like to be blamed for doing too much. That I'd rather be blamed for doing too much than be blamed for not taking responsibility or being there, right? The Okay, now what's the difference between blaming somebody for something and holding them responsible? It is so easy for us to blame because, like I said, you learn to blame just like you learn to walk. I can't remember the very first time I blamed somebody for something, but I'm sure I was about 3-4 years old, and I did something, made a mess or something, and then my sister happened to be there, but it was just her and I, and nobody else seen nothing. So when my mom came in and said, "Who made that mess?" I pointed right at my sister. It's her fault. She's to blame. Yep. Prove otherwise. It's her word against mine. Nobody told me how to do that. Nobody taught me to blame. It just came natural. And why is that? Why is it natural for us to blame others? Because it's self-preservation, for crying out loud. Don't blame me. Because you don't want that. You don't want those troubles. So your natural reaction is deflect it, get it away from me, as far away from me as possible. And it's very easy to say, "They did it. I'm sure of it." Yep. Get that blame as far away from you as possible. Put it over there. I bet you it was one of them kids over there that did that. Wasn't me. Don't blame me. Pass it on to others. Yep, we need to stop. Hey, Kirk, Kirk Whipper, Voyager Center. Tim's saying, Sty, the canoe guy. I wish I was a canoe guy. That's one thing I don't have is an actual canoe. All I got is my kayak. And I would like to have a 12 to 14 foot solo just for these small inland lakes that I'm on, you know. Someday, yeah. The I have to understand people donate because they want to know other reason. Yeah, me dibble. That's why I started out. See, I was never used to that. I don't like having to accept from other people for things that I don't need. When they're just, somebody gives you $5 and says, and you say, what's that for? Just for the heck of it. Well, what am I going to spend that on? Whatever you want. It's yours now. I just gave it to you. And I don't want to hear nothing about it. Well, I always felt so much guilt accepting like that, you know? And it was thanks to my audience that I've kind of learned to, because I had it happen to me, okay? I gave money to somebody to help them out. And they said, I don't want it because I don't need it. And I said, then spend it on something you don't need. Go out to take your wife out to dinner or whatever. Use that money for that. If your needs have been met, then it's want money. Go ahead and spend it on whatever you want because I just wanted to give it to you. They sent it back to me. They wouldn't accept it. That broke my heart. I felt so bad that they wouldn't accept that gift from me because it was unconditional. And then I had to reflect and think, oh man, I'm more guilty at doing that than they are because I can't stand taking help from other people when my needs are being met by myself. I can meet my own needs. Life has been good to me, even in the worst times. I always got through it. I didn't need someone else to help me. Well, YouTube has kind of changed my outlook on it because I tried to return money to a few folks here on YouTube, and it didn't go well. They did not. I hurt their feelings sorely. I lost a great follower 2 years ago. He started following my streams, my channel, and he was donating to the channel considerably. And I private messaged him and asked him, can you afford to do that? And he said, well, yeah, the checks don't bounce, you know? And I go, nuts, that's not what I mean. And I said, I just cannot be accepting these kind of donations. They're just, just don't feel, I just don't feel that, for one thing, I deserve it. And you know what he told me? He said, you ever send it back to me, you actually send back a donation, you're never going to hear back from me again. And I lost track of the fact that he had said that. And he had given me a considerable size donation through PayPal. I sent it right back to him. I haven't seen him since. But I found out through a joint acquaintance of ours that he was terribly hurt. He wasn't insulted, he was hurt that I wouldn't accept that gift from him. So that is something that, we got to kind of bury our pride sometimes for the well-being of other people, you know. Now, passing the blame. We're getting back, I was getting off track, but passing the blame on people. It is so easy, like I said. We learn to blame others on our own. We don't need anybody to teach us to do that because it's a reaction to a natural self-defense mechanism. We just don't want to be blamed for things we're not responsible for, so we'll pass the buck. We'll pass the blame. I try to control that in myself. I try not to pass the blame. Now, I will hold someone responsible. I don't have a problem with that. Now, some people say, well, that's still blaming them for things. No, blaming is an accusation. That's saying it's their fault. Okay, if you say it's their fault, why is it their fault? Well, and okay, now wait a minute. If you hold them responsible, it's because you got some facts that say it was their responsibility. That's more reasonable. And it brings up questions and it helps you communicate what occurred, what happened, so that it doesn't happen again. But just blaming somebody and hurting them, that just builds walls. Just builds walls. And like Jenna's saying, I get blamed all the time for speaking for the whole autistic community, but I always say I speak from my own experience as an autistic woman. Well, that's it. They're blaming because they know they can't hold you responsible for the whole autistic community, because autistics aren't not people. They're all individuals. They all have different levels of impact from autism. Gemma is trying to generally assist that whole community. Generally. She's not saying I got the answer to every single thing in the autistic community. She's not going there. But they want to blame her for speaking for the whole community. Totally unfair. Totally unfair. Oh, yeah, Rain Dancer, thanks for listening. Yeah, there are a lot of folks that come on, they listen, they're not watching the chat or watching the video. And that's the reason I did this program the way I did. 1 hour program that you can turn it on and just have the audio going and do your dishes, clean the house, do whatever you want. It's literally a talk program. You don't have to look at me. I mean, yeah, once you've seen me sitting there talking for 2-3 minutes, you've seen enough. So just listen, and do something else. Doesn't bother me a bit. Hey, Oji-san, it is great to see you. He's doing the same thing, just sitting back and listening. Oji-san, I'm doing something that is kind of insane. I'm watching all of Bob Ross's episodes. I just finished season 1 this morning. I watched 13 episodes today. Well, I did other things, but I watched 13 episodes of Bob Ross. And I'm going through all of his episodes. It's awesome. It's awesome. I'm like Oji-san. I like to paint. I really do. I love to paint. I used to take conchs, mushrooms off of trees, and I'd paint those. I used to take the artist conchs, we call them. You take them off the tree, and on the bottom side, you can just take like a rounded stick or a flat pointed stick. You can just rub on it and you can draw a scenery on it. And then you spray a clear coat on it and it lasts forever. They're awesome. I used to do those all the time. And that when I lived out in the Sty Shack out in the wilderness camp, that's what I did on my winters, that all winter. I'd sit there and I'd paint conchs and do artist conchs, and I'd sell them in the spring at a festival we had in Cornucopia, Wisconsin. I'd haul them all there in the back of my truck and show them off and sell them. Those and hiking sticks, yeah. The painter, rain dancer, yeah. Bob Ross is awesome. He's OG Son's mentor in a sense, Yeah, OG Son loves him, yeah, and for good reason. OG Son is he's a technical Bob Ross, using the computer to paint, create, yeah. Let's get back to blaming others. Taking responsibility instead of blaming. Before we blame, I think each and every one of us, before we blame somebody for something, we need to ask ourselves, do I have all the facts? Do I have all the facts? Is there absolutely no doubt that person is to blame? If there's any level of doubt, give them the benefit of the doubt and say, tell me, was such and such a thing happen? Was that your responsibility? Were you supposed to do such and such, but you screwed it up? Was it your responsibility? Now, you're not saying it's your fault. You're saying, were you responsible for that in any way? You're leaving it to them. You're leaving them an opportunity they would much prefer over being blamed for something. Because if someone says to me, instead of blaming me, says, Sty, were you responsible for that? That gives me the sweetest out, because I can go, yep. Oh, yeah, it was my fault. Like, yeah, I did it. It's terrible. I did it, yeah. All the blamers out there go, did he just admit to it? Well, yeah, I took responsibility for it. And they're going, all right, we got to find somebody else that did something so we can blame them. Can't blame him anymore. You just took the blame right out of their sails. They can't blame you for something you just admitted to. All they can say is, he's to blame for being honest about it. It's his fault for being honest about it. He came right out and said, yeah, that was my responsibility. I screwed that up. Yeah, oops. Yeah. No need to blame me, because I'm telling you flat out, it was my responsibility. I love that. I love to be able to take the blame out of blamers' sails. If I see that they're going to blame me for something, then I ask myself, did I have any responsibility for that? And whatever level of responsibility I have in what they're blaming me for, it might be a very small part of the responsibility. Maybe somebody else is more responsible than I was. But I was responsible for part of it. I'll fess up to that. I'll say, well, yeah, it was partially my fault. I'm responsible for part of it. this part, that takes the wind out of the blamer's sails too. It's like, well, we can't blame him for things that he's going to accept and take responsibility for. Responsibility. Asking if a person's responsible, giving that person the opportunity to take the blame factor out of it is so much more preferable than just blaming people for things and having that person sit there and have to struggle with the burden of their character being brought in question through blaming. Now, I've done things where someone has called me out and said, hey, weren't you supposed to blah, blah, blah? They haven't blamed me yet. They're asking me a question. To blame somebody's not asking a question. That's making a statement. So they asked me the question and I go, yeah, I hate to admit it, but yeah, that was me. That was my responsibility. And they go, well, that's terrible. That's terrible that you did that. No, that's a statement. They're saying you're terrible for doing that. I can take the wind out of them sails too by saying, you know what, you're absolutely right. That was terrible that I did that. I should have never done that. It was terrible. But I can tell you this, I learned from it. I ain't gonna do it again. I'm not gonna no. The last thing I want to do is ever be called out for doing that again. And they're like, what the hell? He just wrapped this thing up because I can't call him terrible anymore because he's learned from what he did and he's never going to do it again. We'll see if he never does it again, but got to give him the benefit of the doubt. He's earnestly looked at himself and said, yeah, that was terrible. He admitted it. He accepted responsibility. Well, that's no fun. We can't blame him if he accepts the responsibility. The catch on me. I don't want to bore you though. I enjoy coloring books. Oh, hey, that's you see those? They come in a tube, the big pictures you roll out, and they're just like paint by number, but there's no numbers or nothing, but beautiful sceneries and stuff. And you use the colored felt tip pens. Man, I did those for years. I mean, I think the last one I did was only about 4 years ago. I did one that was huge. It's like a black felt outlines and stuff. I did a huge one, and it was an outdoor scenery with a mountain and stuff. It was a blast, man, just sitting there using your imagination and and the thing is the basics of art, lighter to darker, and how do you do it so that it gives it depth and a lot of that stuff you learn from guys like Bob Ross or Oji-san. Yeah, but coloring, you know, yeah, I loved it as a kid in school. My teacher said Sty's the meanest little brat in school, but boy, can that kid color. You never get Sty going outside of the lines. She blamed me for being a good colorer, but I got blamed for everything else too. All the bad stuff along with some good things. Yeah. the Oh my gosh. Mike, that's you are just too awesome. You are just too awesome, man. The I'm glad you enjoy it. I'm glad you enjoy Sty Times. Um, the I'm going to take the blame, but there's only one Sty Times left. I only got a few minutes left of the show today. There's only one Sty Times left for a while, and that's Wednesday. Now, on Wednesday, the topic of the night is relevant to what's going to be happening, that topic. Um, you'll see it on the closing as we leave today off at the end of the show. You'll see what that topic is, and I think you'll figure it out. But so there's only one Sty Time left before we take a summer sabbatical. And that's Wednesday evening at 5 p.m. So try to be here because it's the last live Sty Times you're going to see for an indefinite amount of time. The only thing that's carved in stone is that it will start back up. The whole Sty Times program will start back up 3 days a week in mid-September. And that's in the absolute worst case. This summer, it'll be one stream a week on Wednesday evenings until I got my Starlink satellite internet equipment. And that looks like it's going to be the end of June at the soonest. But once I have that, then I'll be streaming live right from camp and as often as I possibly can. The the channel ain't going nowhere. It's just that Sty Times, Around the Campfire, and Sty Story Sundays are going on a summer break. Then we'll have this I don't even know what the title of the stream will be, but there'll be a stream every Wednesday evening. And then a lot of content, video content, a lot of it. I'll be videoing almost everything that goes on out at camp and be posting that every week. I'll post up several of them for you folks to catch during the week until I'm back the following Wednesday. And that's the way it's going to go. That's the way it's going to go. I see E-Waste Mike popped in. It was great that Mike was here. That Mike and the other Mike. Great Mikes out there. And I want to thank all of you. I want to thank all of you for being here today. I'm going to miss these. I love this show. It turned into something that is very enjoyable for me, and I truly look forward to it on the 3 days a week. So I hope to see you all Wednesday evening, 5 p.m. Central Time, for the final Sty Times until later this summer. Rain Dancer, I'll still be around. I'll still be around. So I want to thank all of you, and I will be here Wednesday night. Then I'll be here Thursday night for Around the Campfire, and then Friday night it's a goodbye for 2 weeks live stream. So hopefully I'll catch you in one of those three, and you all take care in the meantime, and I shall see you hopefully very soon. Okay, watch the end here. You'll know what the topic is, the final topic for this season. Bye-bye, folks. Love y'all.